Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Hey, I'm Bruce Broussard. If you notice, I'm a little turned around a little bit. Rochelle is sitting in the seat normally, but the bottom line is that she's going to be hosting the show today and the line. But we've got an announcement to make to the community, to the people. The fact of the matter is I'm running for president of Metro, which represents Clackamas County, Washington County, and also Multnomah County, which is the largest district in the state of Oregon, okay? And so the whole idea is that that's another area. We talk about the county area so often, but the bottom line, this position basically will be representing in a committee in this election, and I'm running for the president of it. Just to make sure that we're fair about this piece to the community, there are four other candidates that are also running. And so we want to make sure we want to introduce them to the people here.
Yes.
And not only just in Multnomah County, but also in Washington County and Clackamas County. Okay? So what we're going to do is that this is what we're doing. And so Rochelle is going to be basically interviewing the other candidates if they show up.
Yes, we have.
If they show up, she will be interviewing the candidates, and
we'll invite them. We'll invite them. It's up to them to show up.
And they can bring that sign, and we'll put all the signs, because we'll keep this sign on too, but the sign will be in the back of the deal, and if whoever shows up, that's what we're going to do, okay? So with that, like you said, it's about the people, and that's basically one of the problems we're having here with this election. This is huge. It's not about politics. We want to represent the people, and the people need to know that, guess what? They're the employers of these politicians.
Correct.
And the politicians are the employees, and you're paying for it. You got me? And we got some big tax items that are coming down, and as you know, the state of Oregon is not a popular person with the president of the United States, President Trump. But the fact of the matter is, we've got the swamp here now. And so they're looking at some big projects that are coming up, which, by the way, I will be part and parcel talking about this when I'm sitting there as president of Metro. They want to build a bridge. They want to build the bridge now. They had no money. And the president, with all due respect, the president said, Oregon, I'm going to give you a penny. So the key is that where are they going to get the money if, in fact, in some cases, they are actually spending money now thinking that they're going to be getting the money from the president, the federal monies.
I think that's a bad plan.
And guess what? You're talking about billions of dollars as opposed to the millions that they were doing when they first started this whole thing. I was on those committees initially, okay? But the fact of the matter is, you say billions. Look, taxpayers don't want no $1 billion. We've suffered enough. People are being thrown out their homes, seniors, the whole 9 yards. And this community right here, in this community right now, they're doing all kinds of things, if you will, of getting rid of the community and all over. So the people in all these three counties, hey, no way. And that'll be my position. That'll be one of the strong. Plus the fact they're charged, if you will, now. Everybody is. It's going to take us all. And I like the idea of the three counties being a part of the whole deal.
Yeah.
We can also include Washington, because you think about Vanport, they're all part of that whole deal too. And there are three major issues, i.e. with this race, is guess what? Homelessness, public safety, and mental health.
Yep, they all go together.
They all go together.
No way.
And so consequently, all of the entities need to be sitting at the table working together to solve this problem. And that's my platform. So anyway, join us very much so. In fact, I'm going to even have her interview me like she's doing now, but I want to make sure you give me a little bit more time. But that's my platform, and I'm running, and we're going to be fair. And that's what this is all about. Community television. We're in community television, and we're going to make sure we get this piece to the rest of the entities out there.
Oh yes, we're going to interview all of the individuals who wanted to come on the show and talk about their platforms. Yeah. Also, this is the Oregon's Voters Digest, so we're going to be interviewing some of the individuals that are running
for other offices.
Yes.
We're bringing
specifically,
we want to do it.
The governor is going to face a challenge.
You said you had some challenger from the community.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Lanisha Duke.
Lanisha Duke
said that she would be willing to come on and talk about her run, so I'm very excited about that.
Good.
Looking forward to issuing that invitation to several others, because
right.
we really need to have an approach that includes all of Portland and all of Oregon. So as Multnomah County, we can't just make decisions singularly that are affecting Clackamas County as well, in Washington County, because we're all in this together.
In fact, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have the governor, because she's sitting in the seat now, Tina Kotek. And she's from this area, from Multnomah County. So we might want to invite, if you don't mind, give them a
definitely.
call. And we got the Trailblazers, they're here in this county too, Portland Trailblazers. And we got one guy running for governor, okay, with Dudley. And that's kind of interesting. And then the person who ran before the governor, Christina, she's running.
Yes,
and
Christina
so she's
Drazen
running. We're going to invite her over too. The people need, again, here we go. The people is going to have to get involved in the politics of this time around. Very important, because who's going to pick up the tab? We can't afford that anymore. We cannot afford more taxes, if you will.
No, we can't. We have some of the highest taxes in the United States.
We have to work together, all of us. As far as I'm concerned, this is a nonpartisan kind of a platform that we're dealing with right now. Mm-hmm. This is not no biased situation where it's not Republican, it's not Democrat. The bottom line, it's about us. If you want to say from a national standpoint, it's the USA, all of us. But remember, you the people are the employers. The politicians who are running are the employees. Remember that. In the past, it's been just the opposite. They've been saying that the politicians are the people who are in charge and the employers. They're not. Now, correct. Employers are paying the fee to get them elected and go that way. But we're going to change that format a little bit, and we're not knocking the economy of this country, because we got to have that big piece, right? The businesses and this and the other. But the fact of the matter is, now we got some major issues: homelessness, public safety, and mental health. That's huge.
You said businesses, and
yes.
Those issues are driving businesses out of the community.
Oh, very much. We want to keep them.
Taxes are lower if you just go over to Washington. Just pop over to Washington.
That's right.
The taxes are much lower, and there is not as much chaos in the streets.
Exactly.
So our downtown still hasn't come back. A lot of our small businesses are hurting.
Exactly.
So we're going to have to do something, and we're going to have to do it fairly quickly.
That's right.
And
you got to do it during this election.
That's right.
I mean, during this particular time. You know, this is right now. We're going into the the voting thing with the city council. Look at it right now. All those little employees that are sitting down there, was it 12 of them? And they're just having meetings and not getting out to the community. So they're trying to learn what to do. So they're talking just to themselves, if you will, and not getting into the community. Don't get me wrong, but that was the old process. We need a new process. We need representative in the community talking to the people.
Now, on this show, I recall right before this election saying, are we going to have 12 people who are responsive, or just 12 people?
Yep, that's right.
And so I haven't seen my counselors.
That's right.
I did receive a letter in the mail from one of my counselors, and it touted the things that had been done, which was really surprising since I live in the community and I'm there every day.
Right.
I don't see these things being done. I continue to see the potholes. I continue to see the problems that we should be able to afford to address, the infrastructure problems. And I'm really hoping that this next election, that we can get people in there that are actually doing the job and that are communicating what they're doing, not after the fact, because after the fact says that you haven't invited us in to discover what our priorities are, and you set your own priorities, and that's very concerning.
Well, in all due respect, they should have discussed that before they put that piece together.
You got it.
They didn't do that.
You've got it.
Okay, so in all due respect, that's what was given, if you will, to the people and the public. And the normal deal was to go on and elect politicians, not employees. So we're going to be educating the folks that are there, first off, that they're employees. So your employees are sitting down there in these homes, and they got issues. We've identified the issues, but they should have done that beforehand. So we have to educate both groups, the employers and the employees. And once we've gotten that, they're doing through their OJT, but the sooner they can get to their respective districts, you got to get to those districts. And we got 4 districts with 3 commissioners per district. And they should divide each district into 3 components.
That would help us understand,
That's right,
as community members, who we should call when
That's right,
something goes wrong.
That's right.
For example, I don't really understand who's in charge of parks.
Exactly,
It used to be
yes.
Dan Ryan
Yes.
was in charge of parks, and now I understand it's kind of distributed.
It's distributed across
he's still
the board.
been a
Yeah,
voice on parks.
That's when he was on city council.
Yes, he still's been a voice on
Yeah, yeah,
parks.
right.
He actually said no to the parks levy.
Yeah, that's right.
So
No.
he said no.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he said no to the first
Well,
levy.
you can have some fun. You're going to interview those individuals, because some of them are running for office, you know.
Yes, some of them are running
but
for
not
office.
his, because he has a 4-year term.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? But you can still give him a call, because if he's got that background, you'd probably want to share with him and get his response as to why he voted no on the levy. You never know.
I have no idea. I would say
Maybe
that
John
parks-
can do that. John,
John's definitely-
this is a good time for me to cut off now. I'm not supposed to be
Let's
doing.
bring the
I'm supposed to be
expert
talking
in,
about
right?
this.
Yeah, let's
I'll
bring
get
the
the expert in
expert
it. Okay, so John Sweeney, you've seen John. So John's going to be there. In fact, he's going to be interviewing some of these candidates too.
Oh.
Yeah, he's going to.
I've got questions for John. John is an expert on the park system.
Yes.
He's an expert. I want to talk to him a lot about the environment.
Oh, yeah.
In Southwest Portland, specifically, some of the tree canopy.
I'm cutting you off because I know you're going to ask him all kinds of things.
I am.
Okay, folks, you take care. It's going to be a good show. And tell your friends and tell your neighbors to look at Oregon Voters Digest and share it. Share it with folks. And we are on YouTube.
Yes, we are.
We're on YouTube, but I know some of you don't have no phones, but all you have to do is Google Oregon Voters Digest. Google Oregon Voters Digest. It got history, it got shows in the past, etc., but it's right there for you. And this particular show is going to be on Oregon Voters Digest also too on YouTube. Okay, so tell your friends. We're going to make sure we use this vehicle. Social media is very important. And that's what we got. They putting the newspapers out, because I love to have that newspaper with a cup of coffee.
Yes.
But they throwing it up and coming up with the was it the IR or what was it? IT, what do you call it? The IT, the component, the technology stuff.
Oh, digital. Yeah. Everything's going digital.
Yeah,
it's so costly to print.
Yeah, but
the nice thing is that because we're digital and because we're community, we're inviting the community. If you're running for office, please come and contact us. I may not be able to know that you're running for office in time to get you on a show. So please, if you're running for office, reach out to us and let us know. And also, go to YouTube and let us know what you want to hear about.
Yeah.
What are the questions that you need to have answered to
by looking at the show and
vote.
then make it and subscribe. Tell them to subscribe.
Definitely
subscribe to the Oregon Voters Digest.
Yeah, so you'll know when the candidates come on,
right, that's right,
and you'll be able
right.
to hear from them.
Yeah.
Sometimes at City Council, you hear 2 or 3 minutes of
you get more than 3 minutes here.
Yeah, you get more than 3 minutes here.
You're definitely going to get more than 3 minutes. That's part of the platform.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons why I'm running. I mean, I've been sitting up there at diocese for days. We're going to change the diocese. The elected officials are going to be where the people will normally sit, and the people are going to be on the other side, because they're the ones that makes the decision at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, John, come on in.
Come on, Mr. John Sweeney.
I see you guys, and enjoy, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. Oh, yeah, have a seat. This is community television, folks. I'm in the back changing seats right now. That's what it's all about. It's more human than anything else. All right, take care. Have a good show.
Thank you. Thank you. Bruce Broussard, the one and only. So I'm very excited to have John Sweeney with us today, because John is an expert on a number of issues in our community. He previously worked for the Parks and Recreation for, 35 years?
Maintenance, and it was 32 years, 8 months.
Okay, 32 years, 8 months. Well, that's a long time. That's a very long time. And what did you mainly do in your role there?
Well, I spent most of my time as a supervisor, but I'd worked up through the ranks. I started as a laborer, which is now called a utility worker 1, and then I was promoted to utility worker and equipment operator, which is now called the utility worker 2. And then and did several things, and then he got promoted to a foreman, and later classified as a park supervisor, park specialty.
And one of those things that you did was you maintain the actual park properties, including
Correct.
mowing the lawns. What other kinds of things?
Well, I was in charge of it was a Pierre Columbia district, and then they condensed it down to, when they had 10 districts, and then they changed it to 8 districts, and I was worked out of Delta Park in North Portland. And so I had 20 pieces of property that I took care of, and I looked at every piece of property once a week,
Wow.
always. And and I had had a gardener and 4 park attendants, and one of them worked weekends, and so they had it divided up, and then when the weekend man had Tuesdays and Wednesdays off, and then the others would kind of fill in to take part of his weekly route.
And the weekend person, what did he do? Like bathroom care?
Well, the weekend man, he mostly did the restrooms and some of the things that he might see that are grossly wrong as he goes through the parks. And in fact, one of the guys one time, usually he'd go to Cathedral Park right off the bat because of the fishermen had come down there to go fishing. Well, one time he had a special appointment to do something else. And normally he would go to Cathedral Park, and he would take care of
park.
the restrooms and all that, and fill the toilet paper, and then a little later in the day he'd go back and fill the toilet paper again. Well, one time he went somewhere else, and the boaters were so cheap they wouldn't bring toilet paper from home. They'd take it out of the toilet paper dispensers at Cathedral Park and said that they were out. Well, word come down to kind of give me a bad time over it, so I told them what happened, and I was to send in a report all the way up. So I sent a report to the mayor and the commissioner and the director and all those all the way down.
Over toilet paper.
It's over toilet paper.
My goodness, that memory just stuns me, because how many bathrooms do you think are open in the park system today? I mean,
now
very few.
They've cut back quite a bit because they contracted out to chemical toilets. Because you'll see places that have
it's contracted out.
Yeah, because the contractor comes in and they service the chemical toilets ever so often, and but when we were running the restrooms, we did it at least once a day, and sometimes twice a day, depending on where it was.
I'm stunned because you're saying once a day, and I don't know that many of the restrooms are open. And the reason I don't know about the restrooms being open is because, honestly, I think it was pre-COVID when I tried to use one. And I realized that a lot of the parks were unusable. They just weren't being kept up to standard. And that was really disappointing for me, because I think for the community that most of us, when we think about what our taxes go for, the things we're most excited about are the parks, the libraries. I mean, I love the library, I love the park, but some of them became less than usable. I know that COVID exacerbated that quite a bit. We had homeless individuals camped in the
Excuse me
park.
just for a moment. It's community television, right? I got to make sure we're on all
Oh,
of those digest
yeah.
now, right? You got me? And then what we can do is that at the end of the deal,
I'll put
just
that-
take that and just
Yeah.
okay, and close it with that. Okay,
Okay, I will.
Have a good show. Sorry
Thank
about
you,
that.
thank you.
Take care.
So I'm not really sure how many restrooms are open, but I know that is kind of problematic that there aren't as many open as there used to be. But I didn't realize that they were serviced by contractors.
The chemical toilets are done by the
But not all the toilets. So
no,
just
the ones that belong to the city are done by the city, and distinctly there was men's and women's. Then they got the fad, and fads are generally bad. and this is one of them. So they were going to go to unisex toilets. And I objected, and he says, what's the big deal? I says, well, you have a unisex thing, there's single occupancy, and bad things could go on inside them. Now, it doesn't say some guy and some gal get together and do their thing, but it says possibly it'd be a danger to children. And I told this one guy when he had a meeting, and there's lots of men and women there, and I says, men's restrooms get messed up quite a bit, and women's not so much. And unisex get messed up quite a bit. And I says,
so it's going to take you more time.
If you're not familiar with women's physiology, the deal is they get a lot closer to the equipment, so it's just not right that the chances of ended up in a dirty toilet is increased. So
I hesitate to think about that. But one other thing that is important to think about is not only are we built different, right, but women use the restroom more often than men. So the fact that they're combined means that more women are waiting to use the restroom. Yeah. I don't know if people think about that, but that's an equity issue. And also, when you close the restroom, there are people who need to use the restroom because of disabilities, and when you close them, you also make the park not usable to them, because Correct. They have to use the restroom periodically for whatever reason, and that's a sad thing. I haven't gone around and looked at how many are open, but I will take a look now, because I think we're mismanaging our park's budget. Now, the park in my area, there's a couple of them, and I've noticed that they've really been cared for in the last few years. So I want to tell you a little story about the park. And then I want to ask you a couple questions. So the park nearest me was formerly called Custer Park. And I did launch a petition to change the name of the park because I didn't feel like it was welcoming. It wasn't welcoming at all. And so the park name has been changed. That's a good thing. But I am a little bit concerned about why it took 8 years to change the name of a park when the park that was named for Darcel took 4 weeks. And back to the subject that Bruce was saying, it seems to me that our city council members and directors think that they own these properties and that they are in charge of making the decisions around these properties. They're in charge of carrying out the decisions that the people make, and they seem to have forgotten that. So Custer Park finally got the name changed after 8 years. The Oregonian recently ran an article, and it left out much of the facts, so much that I asked for a retraction. They did not retract it, but the story was just about glowing about how the park name had changed. They forgot to mention the police report. They forgot to mention that the folks in charge of parks said equity was not their job. On that note, I think there should be some resignations. I really do. I think we come to the part in Portland where if you don't want to do the job for everyone, that you should move on to a situation that better suits you. Because we all pay taxes, and our taxes pay for the park. So we should be able to use them equally and feel welcome. There are lots of parks. This particular park has been sitting there since 1964 with the name Custer on it. No one paid any attention. But all of a sudden, now it is election season, right? So let's talk about election season and how it's been reframed, this narrative that is actually quite terrible. 8 years? To do 8 years is excessive. If I had an employee and I asked them to do something and they took 8 years to do that, they would not be on the job. So I just want to remind people that as citizens and taxpayers, we are the employers.
That's correct.
We are the employers. And so if we want something changed, it shouldn't be a waiting game of 8 years to change the name because you simply don't feel like it. And if you don't feel like it, maybe you're not a good fit for this area. I know we have a lot of quirks in Portland. We're very spirited about our neighborhoods and our parks and the things that we think should be available to us. I just want to say what a terrible thing it is to wait 8 years for justice. And before that, since 1964, it's been ignored. But Darcel Plaza took 4 weeks. What do you think about an 8-year process that cost $20,000, and that doesn't include the employee time, to change the name of a park? Do you think that's excessive, or what have you seen in the past when they've changed names?
Well, one of the things is you did a petition drive for your name change, so
Yes.
it wasn't just you saying change the name.
Oh,
In
no.
fact,
Thousands.
so you put on a petition drive which showed a lot of public interest in doing that.
Correct.
So it's the politics and pressure of politics sometimes, and I always say when they come back and says, well, it's politics, I always say the deal is good judgment and good planning went out the window, and they didn't necessarily open the window first.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on the time when they had the feather about Darcel's Park, and then you got the press involved, and you got the behind it, and the
Yeah, the
gay
LGBTQ.
population
Yeah, the
got
LGBT
on it,
community.
and-
Yes, supported it.
and their associates got on it. So that's how that happened. But the thing is that the process that you did should have been happened more smoothly and happened sooner. Just in fact, you lay it on the table and you take a look at it. And the trouble is that when some people get to be the boss, they think they're God, and they're not. It's I had one boss who was dumber than a deep stump hole, and
Uh-oh.
and so we would go round and round once in a while, and she says, "You don't understand." I says, "Yes, I do." I says, "I'm working for those people out there. They're the ones paying the freight."
That's the truth. So what do you think, as far as, do you think most individuals who have something they want to bring to the government, finding out that it took 8 years to make that change after there were thousands of people who signed on to a petition from that community, do you think that they actually want to go to city council or to the government to ask for anything? Do you think that 8 years has a chilling effect on people responding to the government or asking the government for something?
Well, a lot of times they do that as the delaying tactic. In fact, when a school district wanted to close Adams High School, they did a delay, and then so that the people who had students in that school were out of high school, and the people coming up weren't necessarily that involved.
I understand.
And then also and you present it to the city council, and you look at there's 4 parts to a law, and the legislative part, which is usually the start of it, they have 2 ways of it. It's either kick the can down the road, in this case you kick the can down the road, or the fact that it's a knee-jerk thing. Let's ban candy cigarettes or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's amazing what moves fast, and that's a lot from a knee-jerk routine. And the other thing is it's the kick the can down the road, just like they're saying they're going to save Social Security, keep fumbling around. So This is what they did. Somehow they didn't seem the importance on it.
Not at all.
And the fact to actually do that when they make a change, say the change in the park, and they changed all the logos on the parks, and they sent it down to the commissioner and down to the people, and over a few months they made new park signs, and they put the new park signs out, and they bought new baseball caps and new t-shirts and all that stuff that had the new logo. So it can happen pretty fast. And in fact, the way that they didn't change the Custer thing to the new name, don't ask me to pronounce it.
Oh, that's another subject. But what's interesting is actually that Amanda Fritz stripped the name Custer and made it a park. And that was in 2020. So the name got stripped in 2020, and it just finally got renamed. And by the time she stripped the name, there was already work in process. There was already a petition, and so I appreciate that she stripped the name. But what took the parks so long? I'll tell you one thing, that when I called this is going to sound odd, because Nick Fish was in city council when this started. Mm-hmm. And I talked to a few people who were in city council. They weren't at all interested in changing it. But at the time, I felt like it should be changed, but Nick Fish was very ill. He subsequently passed away, and I waited until after they had had a memorial in February, out of respect for his wife in the community, that they'd have a chance to grieve, because Nick Fish was a pretty good director and council member. I enjoyed his tenure. I haven't so much enjoyed it since he's been gone.
Well, this is a thing that, in fact, that when you get something like that, and if you probably would have known more about putting the pressure on and keeping the pressure on, and that's a good message to the people out there. If you have an idea and you get it started, and especially like in your case, you had all these people that were petitioning, that signed the petition, is the fact that have them, write, to the city council, and also write to the letters to the editor, because the letters to the editor, some people says, well, they won't print my letter. Well, the thing about writing letters to the editor on a subject, the thing is, they take a look at that. Your letter may not get published, which is kind of nice to have your letter published, I can tell you that, because I've had a few published. But still, the deal is you're getting that point in, and you have your friends doing on the same subject, then the deal is it starts to register with the press, and then sticks more with the newspaper than it does with the rest.
I hear you, but the Oregonian chose to print that Amanda stripped the name, and that the community chose the name The Inn. They forgot to mention that there was almost an arrest. Yeah, that was me. That was almost arrested for doing a mural on the street. Don't worry, folks. The paint was approved for muraling. I did not seek permission from the park to do the mural, because I knew it was temporary. So as you know, road striping paint is what you use to paint murals. It has a little grit to it, like a little sand, so cars don't slip, it's wet and things like that. So it's no longer there. But the interesting thing is the police were called, everything happened, still no movement until after that. After that, then we got some movement on that, and the park name was stripped. And then after the park name was stripped, so I feel like you named this park in 4 weeks and you named this one in 8 years, something is wrong.
Oh yeah.
And the people who put this in place, this dynamic in place, so the LGBT community, obviously Darcel's a very respected individual. Just so you know, in Portland, if you want to name the street after a person, you have to wait until they're deceased for 5 years. Now, Darcel was not deceased for 5 years, but still, his name is on a park. Okay, now Custer, who never lived in Oregon. Or
Oregon either.
Never lived in Oregon, never lived in Portland. General Armstrong Custer, his name stays on a park since 1964, and they take 8 years to change it at the request of the community. I think that's offensive. I think that just sends the signal that maybe they're going to do what they want to do, and the community shouldn't be involved. Are you picking up what I'm laying down, or do you feel?
Actually, I've talked to some of the new consulars, and they seem less interested than the old ones.
Oh my goodness, I that's very unfortunate, because I think as taxpayers, again, a lot of our money goes toward, at the federal level, toward things that we don't decide on. Right, so there's federal infrastructure, there's war taxes, all of that, right? We pay for a federal system. Then at the local level, we're paying our taxes for the local system. Something has to start working for us here. So a lot of the money that, for example, we spend on houselessness, and I want to talk about how houselessness affects the park, and maybe how we can shift some things. But we're spending so much money on incarcerating houseless people, but we're not housing them. So we're spending a lot of money, we're just not getting a lot of value. And I feel that that's the way we're doing a lot of things. We're just like throwing the money up against the wall and going, okay, we're throwing money at it, but we don't actually have solutions. So one of the things I noticed is after all of this, we finally got a director after Nick Fish passed away. And I was told to wait for the director when I started this initiative, and I tried to be patient, but it clearly wasn't anyone's priority. Director Adina Long, and I believe she came from back east. She's no longer with the parks. Mm-hmm. She left, I believe, in July of 2025. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds right. July of 2025. So Adina Long was the new director. I met her once at a ceremony briefly. She didn't communicate with me at all, and I didn't communicate with her. I just went to an event and at the park and left. So now we don't have a director. We have an interim director. The interim director is the same person who told me that equity wasn't her job back when I started years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, oh, this is ridiculous. So the interim director is the person who said they didn't care. They actually said, that's not my job, was their exact words. And that was what made me do a protest at the park and do a mural. Mm-hmm. It is your job. Equity is your job. So if you're watching and you happen to be an elected official, equity is your job. And if it's not your job, you should probably step down, because equity means that seniors have access to the parks. It means that children have access to the parks. When there's a dog park, that means that the dogs have appropriate access to the park. So equity is your job. That's what we pay taxes for, so that everyone can enjoy these things. Now, if you have a lot of money, you can build your own private escape. Mm-hmm. Right? You can build your own private escape. But for most of us, we want a park that's in our community that we can visit. With that kind of person at the helm of parks that says, it's not my job, not even it's not my job, let me see if I can find someone who might be able to help you, but it's just not my job. What are we celebrating this many years later? We're celebrating the failure of government to listen to the people. We're celebrating 8 years of them turning their back on the obvious. We're celebrating $20,000 for the process. I don't think that includes the change of signs. I feel like it's great that we changed the name, but the chilling effect is we're telling the employers, the citizens, that the government does whatever they want, whenever they want, if they feel like it. And I feel like that is the wrong direction to go, because I think we all have a lot of solutions. What do you think about in general? Where would you make improvements? Just what are your thoughts in general?
Well, one of the things is that you question their judgment. In fact, that some of these people have come in for different bureaus, and they're only there a few times, and when they leave with a year's salary. You know, if you're working stiff, why, you get your final check and that's it. Because you know, one of them left with a year's salary was $214,000. And the other thing is that the problem is that, you know, some of these people are making more money than the mayor, you know, and I figure, you know, the top dog should be making the most. And they say, well, you got to pay that kind of money to get that kind of talent, but look what they got for the talent, and then they paid them a lot of money to leave without raising a stink.
Well, that reminds me. So the director left, and yes, the director was paid $140,000. That in itself doesn't bother me. But I would like to know, well, it does bother me, but it bothers me because I don't know what we paid for, and I don't know what we got even when she was here. And that's not a personal attack. What I mean is I'm not sure that the park system adequately defined what that person's role was. Because when I called Parks and spoke with the now interim director, Sonia, she was able to tell me what her job wasn't, but she wasn't able to do any of the things that I requested. So I'm not sure if Ms. Long felt that kind of energy, if Parks was just stuck, because I don't know if I would have survived in that environment. And by the way, like I said, I only met her once, but she left with $140,000 after just a very short time, I think 2 years. That is a ridiculous amount of money to pay if it in fact was something that happened in our system that made us pay that amount of money. And if we cannot attract enough talent, then that's another problem that we internally need to solve. Because $140,000 packages when someone leaves says that maybe we were on, maybe perhaps that we did something untoward. Maybe we paid because it was cheaper than getting into a lawsuit is what I'm getting at. I'm wondering under what circumstances did she leave, because she was under administrative review. However, I saw how inefficient Parks was before Ms. Long got there. So I cannot in any way, shape, or form blame Ms. Long for any of this, because the people who are now there told me that equity wasn't their job and they didn't care. I don't know how that figures into her leaving, though.
Well, one of the problems is what they need to do is cultivate people up through the ranks.
Correct.
In fact, they have.
Thank you.
They have got fire chiefs and chiefs of police from somewhere else, and in fact, they got somebody from L.A. And the thing is that Portland went from one of the best-looking police uniforms to just a black uniform, and you look at their uniforms, what they're wearing, they look like a truck mechanic, they crawled out from a truck. So the deal is, and Multnomah County is kind of that way, and they had absolutely the best looking police uniform, and the deal is you no longer have a professional look. And if you're going to advance people, say as a police officer, you need to present a professional look, because that's what you're supposed to be. And then with the fire department, they got people from outside that has some goofy ideas, and
that's a big problem. 80% of our police come from outside of this area. I'm not going to talk too much about that because there's something really important I want to talk to you about related to the parks and the environment. But one of the problems is, as emergency responders, they're not able to get to where the emergency is. So if Portland were to have an emergency today, I'm afraid to tell you that there would be a lot of issues. You wouldn't have water, you wouldn't have gas. The gas works off electricity, so if the grid goes out, you're gonna have lots of issues, lights out, and the police have to come in from another place. Now, I've been in a number of emergencies. I am an emergency planner. I'm also a 9/11 survivor, okay? Mm-hmm. One of the reasons I'm here is because I've been through a lot of emergencies. Hurricane, I was in an earthquake in Seattle. It was a 7-point earthquake. I think they lowered it to like 6.4. At 7, the government pays for all of your expenses. At 6.9, you pay and your insurance pays. So I always wonder about how it went from 7 to 6.9. But I'm really concerned that we hire so many people from out of state, because what we're saying to our young people is there's no opportunity here. And I especially want to say that for women of color, there's no opportunity here. I had a conversation with my son, and my son was talking about the streets that are named after Custer. And when we moved into our home, he told me I wasn't going to like it. And I said, well, why won't I like it? He said, you're not going to like it. Because I don't like it. And I said, well, what don't you like? And then he began to tell me about the Custer Drive, Custer Street, Custer Park. And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't like this. I don't like this. So it's been a very long time that we have avoided that space. But why are we hiring people from back east to come in and address the problems that we have and that our community knows about? Wouldn't it be better to promote someone through the ranks? And when I say promote someone through the ranks, I don't mean ordain someone, because I have a feeling that we tend to ordain someone and say, oh, you're next in line. I never want to see that. because I think some of the people who are next in line should actually be out the door. I say this because they haven't given us an adequate solution for where we are.
Well, the thing is, you have people say they start at the bottom and they're working their way up, and a lot of people they don't want to go all the way up. See, so the deal is if people get past them and all that, that's fine. You know, it's like not everybody in the Army wants to be a general.
Correct.
They don't want to be a private either. And this is the same with the Portland Parks. And the good thing is that the people could start at a fairly low level and still get promoted 2-3 times and be up at a comfortable level where they're in a job that they're physically able to do longer in life, you know. So and because we had custodians that really liked it, and then they contract out, and it doesn't work that well because they have the contracts are written too tight, and with the custodians that were hired, they had flexibility, and same with laborers and stuff like that. In fact, and then people want to have that chance to advance. But there were some of the custodians really liked the job because they liked taking care of the buildings, and some of the people that were laborers, they says, I don't want any responsibility, but you give them that job, and that is their job, and they take it to the limit, you know. And so
what are we saying to our young people, though, when to succeed, they have to leave this city? They have to leave this city to succeed because the opportunities to go up the ranks aren't there. It's not that they don't want them. I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of times they're not there. For example, most of the equity positions in Portland are filled by people out of state. I want to go back a few years, a little off subject, but do you remember when we had the police chief that went from Philadelphia to Oakland? Do you remember her? Oh my goodness, the name slips my mind. I'm just seeing her right now. But she stayed here a couple years and she left. And the reason that people of color tend to leave is because this area is not very welcoming to people of color. Was it Day? What's her last name? Oh,
well,
my goodness.
It could be in that case of the fact that Portland might be a little too white for them, but
white doesn't have to mean racist. See, that's that's one of the reasons why I wanted Southwest to change the name of that park, because a lot of the people there aren't racist. They're just left with decisions that people made even before they were born.
Yeah.
And some of them did not realize that Custer Park stood for George Armstrong Custer. Now, someone said that it stood for another Custer, but I actually believe it is George Armstrong Custer after the research that I did. But we're just telling folks that they cannot obtain these jobs because the talent is nowhere here in Oregon. Are you kidding? Are you saying that we don't have enough individuals who are educated and can respond to the community, that you have to do a nationwide search for someone, then bring them here and possibly mistreat them? I'm going to say possibly, because
the thing is to say they got somebody kind of in line on staff, and he says, well, they got this or that, they got their, everybody's got their warts. So they go outside from somebody that might be actually told, you better find another job with so much time or we're going to fire you, and they hide their warts, so to speak. Then when they get here, you find out, my gosh, they got a lot of warts.
And it also can just be culture. I mean, if you took me to Alaska right now, I don't care how much I love the job, I love a little bit more warmth. So the culture would be a significant change. I spent 20 years on the East Coast, right? So I know that East Coast vibe. It's not here. And people say that they're really laid back and they're really progressive, but I'm not so sure that that's accurate. actually hate the word progressive. I don't really know what it means, because if you look at the stats, I don't think it's about white or black. It's about livability and how are we living in this area. We got just a few minutes left, so I want to talk to you about two things as we close, really important things. So we talked about the parks, and one of the things that I've noticed in my area, and I'm currently fighting, is ivy. And I don't know that most folks, when they think about the environment, think about ivy and how it's a problem. So I'm just going to real quickly describe how it's a problem, and then maybe you can add your thoughts, because John is an expert here. But ivy, for me, it kills a tree. Now, when you kill that tree, what happens is you lose tree canopy, right? Right. So if ivy and blackberry bushes are wrapping around these fir trees, they're going to come down one day. They're going to come down. And Southwest Portland is built so that these trees are oftentimes lining the areas where the electrical wiring and transformers are coming in. And when that tree goes over, it could fall and hit a transformer, which it has happened, okay? And the other thing is, the ones that are closer to you can hit your house. And it's all because of this ivy. It weighs so much, and it just strangles the tree. Tell me a little bit about your experience with ivy and your knowledge.
Well, I was with, when I was a laborer and a utility worker, I was generally in the parks, and I was on the tree division, or the urban forestry division, for 4 years. So I really got close to the ivy. Mm-hmm. And one of the things is that when it gets up there, then when you have an ice storm, it really gets heavy.
Oh, yes.
And so the fact is that a large fir tree or pine tree uses about 55 gallons of water a day. So then when you have the ivy in there competing with it, then the thing is it really hurts, devalues the tree. Now, a deciduous tree, the leaves are out straight, and when it gets short on water, it will curl down to conserve water, and it's has some defense. But the other thing about the ivy, it also climbs the buildings, and it gets under the shingles and the lath, and then if you have bricks, then it gets into the mortar and degrades that, and if somebody pulls it off, why then it pulls the mortar out. Next thing you know, you have overhang of the roots of the brick, and then you have brick fall out.
Oh my goodness!
So a solution is to, first of all, is you find the base of the ivy and you cut a section out. Say.
Now this is something John is saying that citizens can do, because right now, I don't think City Council is actually has ivy on its list. No. I think it has houselessness. It has a lot of things on the list of things, right?
But I've done it with the parks, and I've done it in my
so he's going to give you some tips.
But this is the thing: is you cut the stub, and then you cut a section out. And if you have little leaders going up, you lay that on the ground so it'll grow somewhere else. And then where the stub is, you put a salt paste there, and table salt works real well. Mm-hmm. And especially if it's still moist, and the plant will take it back into the plant and do a good job of killing it.
Okay. And then the other stuff will probably just dry up and fall down. Is that what we're hoping?
Well, that's the thing is that I lived at a place that had a lot of it, so what I did is I cut the section out, and it was in the fall, and so the leaves fell off the tree, and about the time that the ivy started looking sad, why the leaves come out on the tree, and people didn't notice that much. Mm-hmm. And so that's one thing that you can do, and then as the ivy weakens, then you can kind of gently pull it, and you get a little bit more. And then, of course, then you do have sometimes the wind will blow it loose and blow it off. But the thing is, it's weakened, and so it doesn't want to pull the bark off the tree. Like if you
so weaken it first is a
that's the
deal.
Clue.
Just don't go pulling
cut that section off.
Okay.
Put the salt paste on. Then wait for a while, and then kind of try and see what comes easy, and just kind of work on it until you get it up, and it'll eventually you can get it all between you're gently pulling it and the top getting loose and the wind blowing it and all that kind of stuff.
Whose responsibility is it to take care of the ivy? Southwest Portland is covered in ivy. My street is covered in ivy. Last summer, they cut down about 4 trees at the end of my block. They were all covered in ivy, and as I walk that area, they have actually blocked it off because I believe more trees are going to come down. I don't think they took them all down. But whose responsibility is it to deal with ivy on private property, public property? Who does what?
Well, if it's on private property, it's property owner, but...
Okay, it's you folks, so you've heard the salt trick?
Or the thing is, people could go out and help the city along, and the thing is that, like on your mural, and a lot of people in the city use the thing, it's easier to ask forgiveness than it is to ask permission.
I'm a little afraid, though. What if the ivy is attached to like a utility line or something? Could I be hurt if I pull some ivy down and it's attached to?
The whole thing is you cut the stub and you make the gap before you do any of that, because you want to have the ivy that's climbing the poles and the trees and the buildings to weaken it. But the first thing is to make that cut and then use the salt paste to accelerate the deterioration of the bottom. Now, the other thing is that the stuff that's on the bottom, if the ground's pretty good, is that you use a rotary mower after you put the salt paste on. Is actually just to mow the ivy, because then the
so you can mow some of it if you can.
Yeah, you can mow it, because in the leaves has the chlorophyll, which takes the food
light
to give it life. So you're basically taking their food away.
Yeah. So one more question: who is responsible in the city for ivy removal? Because I'm concerned. Southwest has a pretty good tree canopy. Northeast has tree canopy. We cannot lose these larger trees because pollution. So the trees give us the fresh air, and so I don't know that people are thinking about it's Earth Week, Earth Day is coming up, but we need to be thinking about how to preserve the canopy of our trees. One, for the beauty, two, for the clean air. Who's responsible for removing the ivy?
Well, actually, they have an Ivy League, they call it, that in the Forest Park, and they do kind of ravenous about taking the stuff up, and so they've done a lot over the years. And the other thing is that probably the thing is you get a group of people together and go to the neighborhood association and put the pressure on, and if they don't do that, the city actually do it. Maybe you get sanctioned for the citizens in that neighborhood association to take them down.
I think probably we're going to have the neighborhood associations get involved. John, I thank you so much for your opinion. The reason why I say I think we're going to have the neighborhood associations getting involved, City Council is just so divided on many issues, and they're concentrating on one or two issues, very important issues, but also our air quality is very important. So you have been tuned in to the Oregon Voters Digest today with John Sweeney and Rochelle Dixon. Today we've been talking about the parks, overpayments or potential disaster happening in the park system, and a little bit about ivy. We'll be back again soon. Thank you so much for watching us today. Have a great day.
Keep punching.